All right, I'll call the meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so the meeting has been posted according to open meeting laws.
Roll call.
President Seeger.
Here.
Trustee Renucci.
Here.
Commissioner Arndt.
Here.
Commissioner Hayes.
Here.
Commissioner Leaderhouse.
Here.
And Commissioner Morath. Thank you.
All right, citizen participation per Village Resolution 2017. Anyone wishing to address the Planning Commission during citizen participation will be allowed 5 minutes. Your subject can be anything, whether on the agenda or not. Planning Commission should not engage in a discussion regarding comments because it was not part of a publicly noticed agenda. Upon conclusion of the citizen participation segment, members of the audience are not allowed further comment unless they are participating in a public hearing or specifically allowed by a majority vote of Planning Commission due to involvement in an agenda item. With that being said, would anybody like to speak during citizen participation? Would anybody like to speak during citizen participation? If no, then I'll close citizen participation and move on to approval of the Planning Commission minutes from March 13th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to potential revision to the zoning regulations with regard to attached garage and detached accessory buildings in residential zoning districts. I will open the public hearing at this time. If anybody would like to speak on it, please do so at this time.
Hello, Brian Schultz, 2049 Division Street. I was here a while back talking about my potential addition that I want to do onto the onto my house for the attached garage. I thought we were good. I thought that everything was set. We were ready to go. Me and Mr. Johnson, right? Yeah, sorry. I've been trying to get a permit, but I guess you have some questions. We have some questions on whether it was actually approved or not. I guess I don't know where to go from here because I want to order concrete, and I thought we were good to go, but we got a little hold up here. So I guess I don't know what questions to ask, but I thought between here and the village meeting we were set to go.
Well, Tim, are you there?
Yes.
So this,
Should I answer that?
yeah, what we have tonight on our agenda, is this part of what has to happen first before that is truly set in stone and approved?
So the speaker came forward with a question about interpretation, about whether a breezeway as proposed would constitute a connection. The Planning Commission reviewed that and said yes. Then it went to the village board and they said yes. So at that point in time, his project as proposed, could move forward. But as part of the village board decision, they also said we need to clarify this in our zoning code. And that's what this ordinance is intended to do.
But his project has a green light. Is that correct?
Yes. It's got a green light in terms of the way it's laid out. Obviously, he's got to get a zoning permit and building permit from the village, but yes.
Thank you very much.
Could I just say too, though, it's a
Yeah, that's completely different, and yeah.
Tim can't hear this conversation right now, so Tim, for your benefit, Scott Johnson's in the audience and had said that it was approved in concept, but it doesn't meet the current setbacks in the code, correct, Scott?
yes.
Now, does this ordinance address the question of the setbacks?
Short answer is no.
How close
Because at
are
the
we,
time,
Scott?
because at the time, it was only the,
Scott, can you just jump, yeah, just jump in that seat right there?
Okay, the plan that was presented to the Plan Commission at that time, I believe, was just concept of this is what it is because it's actually too close to the lot line. It's 4 feet off the lot line and it would need to be 8 feet off the lot line. So that's why I'm just saying I don't believe the Plan Commission can approve that.
so basically the question was a question of interpretation in terms of whether the connection as proposed constituted an attached garage. And again, at that time, the Plan Commission said, yes, it's an attached garage. It didn't go beyond that in terms of, considering all the other factors that might apply, because that was the only question on the agenda.
So the big thing, so I was following my house line, and I came a foot in from where the house was off the lot line. So that's where, when I went with the addition, I thought, I mean, with the builder and everything that we were looking at, that's the way we drew it up, and that's the way we thought with the addition on the house, that would run concurrent with the house that I have right now. So I guess maybe I'm lost on how this is supposed to go, I guess. But it was, I know we were an extra foot in from where my house sits from the setback off the house, or off the lot line.
So one thing that I would love to be able to figure this out for you right now, but we unfortunately don't have it as a part of our agenda for tonight. So what we've got to do is we've got to figure out what's going on in this public hearing that's opened up right now, according to what we have on our agenda, which is really talking about square footage of attached garages. So that's how we have to address it right now. The better way to figure all this stuff out is to contact Tim, and he can give you some advice, right, Tim, outside of this meeting and this public hearing right now, to help expedite this for you, to help make this happen. Is that right, Tim?
Between myself and Scott Johnson, who issues the, single-family, zoning permits, yes, we'll work with him.
I'm sorry, it's just, it's not part of this public hearing type of thing, so.
I understand. I like I said, I just figured I saw something was on the agenda about it, so figuring coming in would be a worthwhile discussion to have. All right, thank you.
So we still do have the public hearing open. Does anybody else have any comment on the proposed zoning regulation?
I had one question, Scott. And that, I know we talked at the last meeting, we did talk about the maximum length of the connection. And I think your comment about 40 feet made a lot of sense, so you could make a turn to get in. But I didn't, and maybe it's just my old age coming through, but I didn't see anything in here about that.
Yeah, it's in there. I read
It is? Okay,
It's in there.
then, thank you.
So, nobody else has any more comments about this from public hearing? So I think that what I'll do is I'll close the public hearing then, and move on to discussion amongst commissioners.
Probably leave the public hearing open if you want to make that comment about that.
Okay. All right, never mind, I'm not closing the public hearing. Scott, can you stick around for just a little bit? So, Tim, reading through everything on this, I felt good when we started talking about the 50%, just because that number sounded right. But when I really started putting a calculator to it and figuring out those percentages, it really is extremely limiting on a smaller, say, 1,200 square foot home. If we were at 50% of that square foot home, that 1,200 square foot home would not be allowed a 3-car attached garage, which is just doesn't seem right in my eyes for our community. And a 1,200 square foot home is an average square foot home in our community, and you've got a lot of people that want to have a boat and don't want to store it outside and want to put it inside of a garage, and a third car makes sense. So I would ask you if, and I'm sorry that I've done this in the 11th hour here, but if we can change that percentage at all. Because at let's say a 1,200 square foot home, it would have to be 70% in order to allow for that person to have a 3-car garage. That's the number would have to be.
So to answer the question, maybe in an indirect way, basically the standard is 50%, but each of the sections does allow for a person to apply for a special exception to get a larger attached garage by reducing the size of the detached accessory building that's allowed on that property. So in part that might address your concern, but again, that percentage is, something we had talked about. Certainly by increasing the percentage is something that can be done as part of the public hearing, because you're not making a restriction more restrictive than what was originally proposed.
Okay, then I would make a suggestion that we change it to 70% minimum, unless somebody wants to change that at all.
What you're saying makes sense, and actually, if you stop and think about it, the influx of storage units being built, it is pretty much evident that there's a big draw for that, and there's not a lot of storage space in even some of these new homes. I was told that the new ones that were built down by Miramar and ES, took 30 days, they were all filled up. So I do agree with you.
So it sounds, Tim, like everybody here is kind of on the same page, that 70% would be the preferred number? If we can change
Okay.
that.
Yep. So basically, if you're looking at the ordinance on page 2, section 1 through 8 has a reference to 50%. So as part of your motion, if you're so inclined, is to approve or recommend approval of the draft ordinance, provided that the change in percentage is changed from 50% to 70%. And just by way of filling out the conversation here, there is a reference to 510-blank, and that should be 510-58.1. And when this goes to village board, that'll be filled in. And again, that 50% can be changed so that it's shown as 70% when the village board looks at this.
All right, I'll motion to approve this ordinance as presented.
One second.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to close the public hearing, and now we can do that.
I motion to approve the ordinance as presented with the exception that we're changing sections 1 through 8 from 50% exception to 70%.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to sign permit for Square Side Boutique in Downtown Design District located at 2874 Main Street. Dan Parman, applicant. Any questions about this one at all? Looks like everything's right in line with what it should be.
It looks like they've done a very nice job with the building.
Incredible what they've done with that building. So I'm looking for a motion then.
I'll motion to approve the wall sign with the light fixture as proposed based on 4 above mentioned criteria listed in the zoning code with the understanding that 1 additional building mounted sign is allowed. The proposed work must be completed within 1 year from this date.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Hey, guys, thanks so much for what you're doing.
So any recommendations for future agendas?
Are we going to have to discuss anything else about what we just talked to Tim about as far as that new ordinance?
I think that it's going to have to be a discussion between the building inspector and Tim Schwecky about what they can or cannot do.
I understand. I guess what I'm referring to, though, is that Tim mentioned that besides the size of the garage, that there was a limitation on like a yard shed or an auxiliary building, that he might make that smaller to make up the difference. And I just want to make sure that we're not
That's already
going
part of the ordinance that we decided to pass.
That's fine. I just want to make sure it doesn't get left by the wayside.
Yeah, that was part of the whole thing. So our next meeting is going to be May 8th at 6:30. Make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
I
All right, meeting adjourned. Hey, Tim, just
Yes.
before you leave us, I want to say thank you very much. This is my last Planning Commission meeting. It's been a real pleasure to be able to serve in this community and have you at the helm and helping us make some really great decisions for this community. So thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of that and letting me host these meetings, I guess. So
Well, I
thank you.
certainly appreciate your leadership and your guidance, so thank you.
Thanks.